Okay, guys, today I will be breaking down UFC 195's main event, welterweight title fight, Carlos Condit versus Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler is defending his welterweight belt against Carlos Condit. It's going to be a war. You know, these guys are both animals, vicious strikers, two of the most vicious strikers in the welterweight division, Carlos Condit and Robbie Lawler. You know, Carlos Condit used to be the interim welterweight champion. He fought for the welterweight title against George St. Pierre and lost that. You know, and Robbie Lawler, ever since he returned to the UFC, you know, he's been destroying everybody. Since he returned to UFC in 2013 after he lost to Lorenz Larkin. You know, he beat Josh Koscheck. He came in there. I didn't even think he was going to beat Josh Koscheck. When Robbie Lawler and Josh Koscheck was first announced in 2013, I thought Josh Koscheck was going to win that. You know, I thought Josh Koscheck was going to use his wrestling and beat Robbie Lawler, and then Robbie Lawler went in there and knocked him out. Then he destroyed Bobby Faulkner. You know, he fought Rory McDonald in a close fight. You know, then he fought for the belt against Johnny Hendricks, and he lost. And I thought he was going to disappear from there. You know, I didn't think he was ever going to, never in a million years did I imagine him fighting for the belt, and winning it. You know, after he lost to Johnny Hendricks, you know, he didn't let that deter him. You know, it shows you Robbie Lawler's character. You know, it shows you how determined he is. You know, and his career will tell you how determined he is as well, because he lost 10 times. You know, and he didn't let that deter him, and he still went in there and won the belt. You know, after losing to Johnny Hendricks, he fought Jake Ellenberger. You know, knocked Jake Ellenberger out. You know, I think he hit him with a flying knee. You know, picked him apart, knocked Jake Ellenberger out. Then he fought Matt Brown in a war. It was a war. It was on Fox. I seen that main event. It was real good. It was a war. It was a back and forth. Matt Brown showed a lot of heart in that fight because Robbie was busting him up. You know, but Robbie dominated him. Then Robbie went on to fight for the belt again, you know, against Johnny Hendricks in a rematch. You know, Johnny Hendricks didn't even defend his belt at that point. I think since the Robbie fight, Johnny Hendricks was on the shelf, and Robbie Lawler fought twice, you know, and then got right back to Johnny Hendricks, and he fought him, and it was a close fight. I think the deciding factor in that fight was the 5th round. You know, in the 5th round, Robbie Lawler just went at the end. It was like right at the end of the fight. Right at the end of the fight, Robbie Lawler just went crazy and just started lighting Johnny Hendricks up, you know, with kicks, punches, and roaring and stuff like an animal. And he won that fight in that 5th round. Then he went to fight Rory McDonald in UFC 189 again. You know, the Mendes versus McGregor card, and it was a war, another war. You know, when he fought Rory McDonald, that was probably the best fight of 2015. You know, when he fought Rory McDonald. It was a war. It was a back and forth fight where Rory McDonald hurt Robbie with a head kick, you know, and, you know, they was busting each other up. Their faces were bleeding. They were staring at each other like two animals, you know, and then in the 5th round, Robbie Lawler hit Rory with, I think it was a straight left in his nose. And, as a matter of fact, when Rory was going into the 4th round, if we watched the fight, in the 4th round, I think Rory's nose was already broken because blood was coming out of his nose, and his coaches tried to stop the blood, and it just came spraying out. So I knew his nose was broken already in the 4th. But when he took a clean punch by Robbie in the 5th, it just shattered it even more. You know, and Rory fell to the ground, and that was the end of the fight. And Robbie screamed and lost his mind. You know, and Carlos Condit, you know, he's an animal. He's a Muay Thai machine. He's vicious on the ground. You know, he's ferocious. He's one of the most vicious strikers in the UFC. He was able to drop the great George St. Pierre with a head kick. You know, and was swarming George St. Pierre on the ground. You know, he lost, you know, 4 fights in the UFC, but he's an animal. He's a tough fight for anybody. You know, I think in this fight, I think Robbie Lawler is going to lose. I think Carlos Condit is going to beat Robbie Lawler. You know, as crazy as that sounds, here's why. I think Robbie Lawler is going to lose to Carlos Condit because Carlos Condit never really lost the fight on the feet, really. Usually people who beat Carlos Condit, you know, are people who take him down. Usually when people stand with Carlos Condit, they take beatings, you know, and they have no choice but to take him to the ground. You know what I'm saying? Basically, all his losses in the UFC to Martin Kampmann out-wrestled him. George St. Pierre out-wrestled him. Johnny Hendricks out-wrestled him. You know, Tyron Woodley took him down and broke, you know, tore his ACL. You know, basically, but when he was on the feet with them, he was tearing them apart. You know, even Johnny Hendricks, you know, Carlos Condit was beating Johnny Hendricks up in the third round. He was beating the crap out of him, you know. So, I think, and Robbie Lawler is not going to try to take Carlos Condit down. I think Robbie Lawler is going to keep Carlos Condit on the feet, which is going to be a big mistake. I think Robbie Lawler might shoot for some takedowns. I won't be shocked if Robbie Lawler goes in there, because Robbie Lawler been mixing it up. I won't be shocked if Robbie Lawler goes in there and he shoots some takedowns on Carlos Condit. I won't be shocked at all. But I think the majority of the fight is going to be on the feet. You know, I think Carlos Condit is going to use a strategy sort of like Greg Jackson's gym. If you've been watching Greg Jackson's fighters, they all been using that Holly Holm technique. You know, if you watch Alistair Overeem when he fought Junior Dos Santos, you know, he was moving a lot. You know, he didn't stay there and he made it a hard target for Junior. You know, that's never how Alistair fought in the past. You know, and it worked. You know, Holly Holmes did that to Ronda Rousey. She used movement, and now you seeing Albuquerque, Greg Jackson's fighters, Greg Jackson and Wink's fighters using a lot of movement. You know, so I think Carlos Condit is gonna use sort of like the way he fought Nick Diaz. He's gonna move a lot. You know, he's gonna land a lot of punches on Robbie, and he's gonna use kicks and mix it up, and he's gonna pick Robbie apart. To be honest, he might even finish him. He might even finish him with a head kick. You see Roy McDonald land that head kick on Robbie and almost finish him. You know, and Roy was busting Robbie up with elbows. You know, when he hit that head kick, he was hitting him with punches, elbows. He was tearing him apart. You know, I don't think Carlos Condit, if he lands a head kick like that, he's gonna let Robbie recover. You know, so I think Carlos Condit wins by decision or TKO in the third round or the fourth round.